Thanks, Aparna, and thanks everyone for joining in. Right, this is going to be a very exciting, interesting conversation for next 1 hour, and I'm already sure, not sure how sure I am about the future of QA or future of tools, but I'm very sure that this next 60 minutes is going to be very insightful, right? And the reason being, I really love this quote from internet. It's about the future, the predictions, and the whole futility about it, right? And I often think about it and think it's so true, and that's why probably it's so funny, right? It is difficult to make predictions, especially about the future, as if there were any other predictions, right? But I guess we can't help it, can we? As human being, we are very curious race, right? We're always curious about what's going to happen tomorrow and day after, right? And no matter how much reality stakes is hard, right? We often see predictions go wrong. We often see our assumptions doesn't hold true in the quantum of changes that comes to us, and yet we keep thinking about how the future is going to be, right? Mm, and why tests should be any different. In fact, tests are even better. We are paid to be curious. We are paid to be inquisitive, right? We are paid to be thinking about what is obvious, but also what is obscure, right? So I guess this group of people here today, this community of testing and QA, it makes absolute sense for us to spend an hour thinking about what lies in front of us, what lies beneath the layer of modernization, right? How does QA really looks like? How does our lives is going to look like from 10 years from here onwards? Then, how does the tools that we're working with, technology that we're working with, customers that we're working for, how are they going to look like? My name is Saksham Sarode. I have been a very sincere student of software testing and automation for last 23 years, and I'm still learning. What I'm going to do now is share NewVision's point of view on how we think this future might look like, right? And I have my friends here, Santosh from Avo, right, who's going to have um, give us a glimpse into that world, right? So looking forward to this conversation. Very quickly though, I think before we start thinking about how does a future ready tool looks like, it is going to be very important for us to understand what is the future of QA looks like, because that's ultimately going to drive the demand for future of testing tool, isn't it, right? And in New Vision world, right, we're very convinced that this future is going to be very exciting and enthralling at the same time, and it's definitely going to be very different from whatever we have seen in last 2 decades, right? We see this in a most simplistic way, three distinct paradigm shift in the way the QA that we know as of now, or the QA that we have been acquainted with for last more than 2 decades now, is going to change from here onwards. There are three key shifts. The QA will be more continuous in nature, for sure. It's not going to be choice. In fact, I'm speaking as if I'm talking about future, but it's happening right now. We are already there. The future is here, right? The QAs have to be and will be getting more and more continuous in nature, more and more collaborative in nature, and more cognitive in nature, right? What we mean by that is the focus of our testing and automation will be more DevOps aligned. The DevOps world, the need for speed, the need for integration, the need for being continuous and collaborative, that entire DevOps philosophy is standing on, is going to be also driving the priorities for us from a QA community side. So our focus would be more not just on the test case automation, but we'll be looking at the entire lifecycle automation within QA and outside QA as well. That's what we mean by being continuous. The QA in the future is going to be more collaborative in nature. We're going to break more and more walls around us, right? There won't be any dev or QA and then UATs and other teams, but these lines which are already getting blurred. And we are looking at a world where the QA becomes the bridge to bring this entire world together from an engineering and operations side. We are definitely looking at being more collaborative in nature. And we're going to do that by undergoing a dual shift. The third and most talked about shift is going to be in the way we look at testing. That's in summary, but what we're going to do in next 10 minutes is go up a little deep little into detail on what we mean by that, right? So let's start by continuous quality assurance. Now, often when we talk about continuous testing, continuous QA, we often are talking just about integrating our automation suite with the CI/CD pipeline. And just because they can be triggered automatically after a successful build deployment, runs it in a container mode, in a parallel distributed mode, and gets you a report by the end, right? Doesn't mean that the continuous QA is really implemented. Because for me, a continuous QA strategy, a comprehensive DevOps enabled QA strategy will have to address the 6 fundamental blocks of this entire ecosystem. Whether you are automating your regression suite, whether you're talking about doing a migration assurance for cloud, or whatever your use cases are, whatever your testing scope is, unless the strategy is addressing your testing tools, their interconnectivity, the environment and infrastructure, the data, the whole approach towards automation, the processes, and the people. These 6 fundamental blocks coming together is what an ecosystem of the any testing is going to be. And for me, the QA to be continuous is to look at the automation possibilities across these 6 areas, not just test cases, not just regression testing, not just test execution, but looking at this entire world holistically and try and see if we can automate, optimize, and transform each one of them, right? Creating a cohesive solution is what the continuous QA would be, right? And that's what the DevOps is going to be about. DevOps is continuously shrinking this entire tool chain or the value chain between engineering and operations. QA1 is one part of it. So it's bound to impact us. So what I'm trying to say is, while thankfully the technology is so mature that each of these areas have a lot of tooling, technology options, automation possibilities, and so on and so forth, it is important for us to pick and choose and orchestrate them in such a way that they became integrated, they became more continuous in nature. And that is why we believe that the way it's going to translate into what it means for the future tool is that our future tool should be more ecosystem friendly. Now, I don't care if you're just UI automation or your data automation or your test management tool or you are probably execution orchestration platform, whatever you are, whoever you are, as a future tester, I'm going to expect you to be very integration friendly with my ecosystem. You might be a great tool, but if you're going to come in and just sit there and say, you know what, I'm going to need this, I'm going to work in this periphery, and I won't be able to exchange information or collaborate with the other tool, other source of truth in your ecosystem, it simply won't work. The democratization and the tooling and technology layer is going to be of the paramount importance. That's what I mean by future rule to be more ecosystem friendly. Number 2, unified solutions, right? Gone are the days also where I think you had different tools and different frameworks for UI and web and mobile and APIs and microservices and data, something else for data, right? While there are going to be a lot of decentralization and democratization of tools, the DevOps permits it. But at certain level, you also need to consolidate them and make sure that your approach of implementation, wherever possible, have to be unified. For example, a tool today cannot just be a UI automation tool. It has to be more API microservice oriented. It has to also be able to data, because the use cases and the customer journey that my testing teams are automating, are testing today, are traversing through across these architecture layers. And that's why the need to be a unified solution. And the third, and I think I'll be stating the obvious here, that unless a tool, a platform for tomorrow is not cloud enabled by the means of its own architecture, the tool architecture itself has to be cloud enabled, cloud friendly, as native as possible, and also the ability for that tool to test the cloud native, cloud migration, or cloud based products. Second part of it. And third is, can it be how easy it is to use, for example, cloud-based execution labs for using, let's say, the AWS marketplace assets, or some containers and entire execution infrastructure, both for mobile and browser compatibility, hosted somewhere else on the cloud on any hyperscaler, is going to be the very key feature for an tool. And together with this is what we define continuous quality assurance, the future of QA. And this is how it would mean for the tool. Going forward, we spoke about how being collaborative is going to be the very key. If you look at the DevOps manifesto, right, there are two keywords which are being repeated the most. One is continuous, the second is collaborative. Because the whole idea behind bringing DevOps was getting more and more collaborative culture within the dev and ops, between the engineering team and the production teams, right? And we strongly believe that QA could be that one bridge that brings this world together, like I said earlier. And for that, what do we need? We need to have the dual shift. While we often talk about shifting left, which is testing as early as possible in the life cycle, making friends with development, moving towards technology, right? So that we understand API, so that we understand a data block, so that we understand microservices and automate them test and automate them as soon as possible. We're also talking about test-driven development here, where we are not going to just test with the developer. We're probably going to test before the coding starts as well. While we often talk about it, the other part of this shift is also equally important, which is shift right, which is where you're going to talk with your UAT teams, which you're going to talk with your production teams, production support teams, operations, right? So that you can understand the customer journeys, the end user and their needs more and more closely. What is happening often is we are testing a lot of combinations which are not part of your user scenario. There's a whole effort and time into testing that gets into testing something which is probably never going to be used in production, leaving out probably some of the most often used user journeys. And to bridge this gap, there's no other alternative but for us to shift right. But mind you, this is not just about we understanding their world. It is not just about we understanding how dev and technology works. It's also about for them and we enabling them to understand our world a bit better. So then they can find out what are the assets that they can reuse. Can development team use my P1 automation suite as an extended part of their BVD test? Right, just an idea. But can they ensure that it gets executed before they give the build to me, so that I don't have to waste testing efforts testing on a build which already have some showstoppers, because of which the build is going to get rejected. And this is going to help you find the defects early on. Similarly, UAT teams, we often talk about the time pressure on testing team, but think about the UAT team that has to look at the product and sign off for production in a span of 1 or 2 weeks, while testing team was still involved in the entire 3 months of release cycle. Now, can I automate my assets in a way so that UAT teams can use it? That's the extent we're talking about. That's a collaboration. That's a give and take we're talking about. And for a future ready tool to facilitate this, like I said, it has to be a bridge between unit testing, UT, and UAT. Right? It's not just enough that a tool is used for regression testing and functional testing, like I said, but can it be also deployed in those environments, production and development? Can also another interesting aspect is this whole debate on low code, no code, right? And I often think about why this has to be a choice. Why do I have to why do I have to choose one between the two? Why I cannot have both? And the reason I'm saying this, because you have different user bases. Well, on one hand, you have people who have been trained into Selenium and Playwrights and who have great into coding, right? Now their mind works when they write a piece of code. Now you will find these people very uncomfortable if you give them a completely codeless tool, right? So, and again, both of them have their own limitations as well. Can we not have the best of both of them? Can the platform not be both a code based and a low code slash no code, right? So that we can enable both development mindset and a business and domain centric mindset. And that's what we mean by being more collaborative for a quality assurance as a practice and more collaborative as a tool as well. The third aspect, right, the most sexier aspect, if you will, right, the aspect that is more talked about these days is, can we get more intelligent from here? And the question is not, it's just a rhetorical question. Why? Because I don't think we have a choice. If you look at in a more simplistic way, the shift that we're talking about here is from a waterfallish model that allowed us to test everything every time. We shifted into agile that asked us to test what we can test till we can, with a time box frame, 2 weeks of sprint, 3 weeks of sprint. That's a time box that we get. You test whatever you can. But now we're talking about DevOps, which comes say, you know what, it's not days or weeks, you have hours. And that is why it's going to be very important that we test what we need to, and only till we have to. Nothing more, nothing less. But for us to do that, for us to test what we need to till we have to, we need to also understand where the defects could be. With this change that developer have pushed into my build, where is the most probable places, more probable test cases for me to fetch the defect? Those insights is what today's technology of AI and ML can get you. And not just that, a generative AI has taken a step forward and you say, you know what? I'm not just going to identify those areas, those test cases for you, but I'm also generate those test cases for you, generate those automation scripts for you, generate that data for you, right? And I think that's going to be a great possibility. And how does it translate? It translates into a future tool being more intelligent, more cognitive, more predictive, and more generative in nature, right? And there are many use cases. We're going to have a series of webinars, and I'm sure one of those webinars will be on the different use cases that we have, wherein we can infuse AI and cloud with the entire testing life cycle to make it more cognitive. And having said that, this three paradigm shift is what going to be the future of QA, and we're calling it digital assurance. We're looking at differently just to make sure that there's a visual demarcation of what we're walking towards. We also understand that this is not going to happen overnight. This is not going to just happen because it's not just about tooling and technology. This is also cultural shift. It's a huge change management. So for our customers, we often look at what is their current state, where are they across those six fundamental areas of the ecosystem, and then plan the transformation roadmap for them. But in nutshell, if I had to solidify for you in a very condensed way, this is how a transformation from QA to a digital assurance would look like in a very stepwise systematic fashion, right? And to us at NewVision, right, along with our partners like Avo, that's how the future looks like today. In the next segment, we're going to look at how does a tool does most of these things, right? What are the art of possible here? And this is where I hand it over now.
Hey, thank you, Saksham.
Santosh, thank you so much. Over to you, man.
No, thank you so much. This was indeed very, very insightful. And again, good morning, good evening for the entire folks, out here. We really appreciate, your time and share some really powerful insights, and then kind of align towards what Saksham was mentioning, right? It's very important when we talk about continuous testing, collaborative, cognitive, right? Again, how can you write? How can you find the right kind of platform who can align to make your vision successful, or rather, give that that solid, strong platform that is required to make sure your entire QA is eventually transitioning to QE, right? So in today's world, we are talking a lot of quality engineering, and like Saksham was mentioning, every point that Saksham was stressing on and bringing, eventually that is where you're going to see a big shift, into the QE. And QE, just to put in, simply said, is it's being collaborative, right? QE is engineering, right? When we talk about engineering, it's continuous, right? There's a lot of cognitive, aspects that comes into place, right? And that's where it keeps revolving. Now, having said that, um, how does AVO come into this entire paradigm shift? How does AVO contribute? And like Saksham was mentioning, you need to make sure and there are a couple of interesting things that he mentioned, right? You need to make sure you have a platform which is very adaptive, right? Very, very adaptive. Second thing is, user enablement. How somebody can quickly go and understand your platform, and you can start performing, building your test scripts, understanding, adapting, making sure that you're delivering at the right space and the right speed. Very, very, very important, the integration part of it, the flexibility of your platform, right? You talk about DevOps. In DevOps, there are, day in, day out, there are a lot of DevOps tools, CI/CD tools coming in. There are a lot of ALM tools coming in, right? There are a lot of BI, there are a lot of data. So if you look back into our QA history, every time you have been seeing that constant in every time an org invests in a platform, in a couple of years they have to go and again re-engineer it, right, or recreate it. Why? Because either a technology has changed or we have evolved, and that existing platform is not currently supporting, right? So that's where Avo comes in, by bringing in a very strong, capabilities, having open architecture, meaning today in this fast or speed evolving technology, you want to make sure you have a platform where the platform can quickly adapt, right? You can integrate your DevOps, you can integrate your AI capabilities, how well you can play in your test maintenance, right? How well you can reduce your execution time, how well you can predict your defects, right? So there are bunch of things that has to be considered when you are working with organization like NewVision, where you want to make sure that they are very comfortable, they're very confident with the platform, where the platform can align to their vision, what they're delivering to their customers, right? Now, having said that, what does Avo bring on table, right? So if you look, we are very heterogeneous. Like I was mentioning earlier, supporting different technologies as we are evolving becomes the key. So we support more than 200 plus different technologies, and in today's world, all the organizations are dealing with one or other packaged application. So we want to make sure that we support most of the packaged application wherever required, like SAP, Oracle. We are partnered with SAPs. We are partnered with Oracles. We have very powerful accelerators that can help you quick start your automation journey, right? But in a nutshell, if you really look at this, slide, there are three strong pillars, right? Test design, smart execution, and test maintenance. And these are the three key areas where day in, day out, from the day one of our testing, from our manual days, we have been always struggling. Right. And that's the kind of problem we are trying to solve as a Avo platform. Now, when it comes to design, test design, like Saksham was mentioning, right? We don't need to go and figure out a resource who understands scripting, who understands developing. They should understand the tool and they should be quickly able to design. So where this collaborative comes into place, where your manual testers, where your business users, right, where your developers, okay, all collaboratively have to get involved and contribute into test design. So we bring in a lot of visual test design aspects, very click and add kind of a process, in sprint automation, where we are talking about shift left, shift right, where you're in a traditional setup. Normally, what we have seen in sprint, you first write your manual test cases, then you push that test cases, into future sprint for regression. But with AO platform, you're supporting in sprint automation from the day one, right? Where you can visually create or build your test stories. You can build, virtual repositories. With that virtual repositories, that's going to help you to, go ahead and automate, right? We have AI capable or AI enabled, where you can feed in your different set of documents like requirements, user stories, and generate manual test cases. And you guys will all be very happy to know, and we're very excited that from just generating the manual test cases using AI, Gen AI, we are also focusing how we can convert those manual test cases into automation test case, right? Now that's how powerful the platform is going to be, and that's how we think futuristically, right? So that's where we are trying to talk about test design. Definitely, execution is another huge area. We have day in, day out, we see a lot of time taken in execution of huge regression suites. So how do you support that? We have smart scheduler, we have AI driven schedulers, right? We have grid execution and seamless integration with CI CDs, your pipeline, where every day everybody talks about CI and CD, but we also shouldn't forget CT, where you are also continuously testing, right? So again, to do that, we want to make sure any platform that we work with, you should be able to integrate with most of your CI CD pipeline, right? Now, having said that, test maintenance becomes the key, because we are spending a lot of time, a lot of resources, a lot of money organizations are bleeding because of test maintenance. Now that's where Avo comes in. We have a lot of patented technologies like impact analysis, right? Mind map, which are again patented, self-healing, where you can quickly go, you can scan your pages, you can compare your, one version to another version, automatically go help you to script, change your scripts, manage your scripts. That reduces a lot of test maintenance. And again, the accuracy also becomes, top notch, right? Where you're talking about, reducing your production defect. Now, having said that, there are a couple of other different components which I'm going to take, probably a minute or two to talk about, right? Now we spoke about test design, smart execution, test maintenance, but there are some key areas that we tend to forget. That's your data, right? How do you have the right set of data to test? Because having the right set of data, that's where you're going to be eliminating almost 50 to 60% of your defects that is going to get into production. Now to support that, we have ITDM, we have service virtualization, right? Plus we have a lot of other customers where they work with different vendors like GenRocket. We have partnered with GenRocket, which will help you to generate synthetic data. We they bring on pre-modeled data, right? So we want to make sure that we, as a platform, we give you all the solutions, all the capabilities, right? We can help you in a single platform to take care of your test design, your execution, your maintenance, your data, right? And also, how can we support your shift left and shift right approach, right? Now, having said that, we'll kind of see what we have in our AI capabilities, right? So let's go to the next slide. So today in the AI enablement, what we have, like I was mentioning in the previous slide, visual AI, right? We support desktop, we support Citrix, we support a lot of legacy apps, which is key. Lot of big organization, financial sectors, your manufacturing, they still have legacy systems, right? And we want to make sure that we support that. With the legacy system, we want to make sure we support your downstream and your upstream application, right? So for that, we have to have a very strong capability of your end-to-end. Then, like I was talking about self-healing, which is very key for your maintenance. Again, that's AI driven. We have we use some strong models there to support that. Our impact analysis, which is patented, again, we use AI there. Again, it helps in maintenance during migrations or even major changes that are happening in the application end, right? And then test case generation, which I'm going to show you. So in the test case generation becomes very important, where you're saving a lot of time by just feeding a document, right? Now the document could be your requirement, or it could be your user stories. It could be in any format. We can generate a test plan. We can generate a test case in detail. We can generate a test data. Now, again, in the test cases, with our test case generation, we have the capabilities where you can generate, positive, negative edge cases, right? Now that really focuses on how well or the kind of quality you're delivering to the business or to the production, right? Now, very quickly, what we have in our coming quarters, we have prompt-based analysis, we have coverage analysis. Then again, we are generating automation, like I was talking about. So now we are generating manual test cases, but with those manual test cases, with the click of a button, right? How can you automate those manual test cases as well? So we are working very strongly on those. Then we are working on smart regression and also how we can predict your app quality. So these are a couple of our AI enablement that we have. Now, just a quick slide, another slide, and then we'll jump into the product demo. These are some accolades that we get, we have got from G2. You can see in 2024, 2022, right? We have a very strong customer base, from packaged application to different sectors like entertainment, manufacturing, BFSI. Okay, and you name it, and we have most of them, and most of them are happy customers. Like and that's how we kind of feel very privileged and also very excited to work with NewVision to explore their vision, right? Or and be a part of their vision. Now, having said that, let's jump into the platform where I would like to give you a glimpse of our Assure platform. Again, we have different products like I was talking about. We have ITDM for our test data. We have service virtualization, right? But however, today our focus is going to be on our QA platform, right? So today, the first thing what we want to show you is how we generate manual test cases, using our GenAI capabilities. So what we have done is we have a document for a reference, right? This is our, a requirement where you can see we have screenshots, we have, all the requirements clearly defined by the business analyst. Now, what we do is we feed this into our, AI test case generator. Now, keeping the time in frame, we have already fed that. Okay, so very quickly you'll see, we are going to generate the output. Now here there are two ways that we can look at. We can generate module level test cases. Now when we talk about module level test case, just to give an example, so today we are generating module level test cases for Avo Bank. So that's our homegrown application which we use. Now there you have different business flows like fund transfer, creating an account, right, or applying for a loan. So here I go there, I put in fund transfer, I hit generate, and by looking at that requirement, what you would see is a detailed test case from a module level being generated. Now at the same time, we talk about in sprint, we talk about user stories. You can generate test cases at a user story level as well. So that again breaks into a lot of details from sprint to sprint, from different user stories, and you'll get a lot of clear test cases. Now, if you see here, we have positive cases that are being generated, which is very, very powerful, right? Then, if you scroll down, then you have negative test cases, right? Again, all, with all the details, right? If you scroll down, you have edge cases as well. Okay, now imagine the amount of time and effort that you have saved. Imagine, the kind of efforts that you have put with the click of a button in terms of accuracy, right? So here itself, we are already filtering a lot of, lot of issues that we can think or encounter, when we get into the production, right? So this was a quick glimpse of our, AI test case generation. Now, what we would walk you through is, Avo Genius. That's our smart recorder. Now, that's again very, very powerful. The reason being is with this Avo Genius, you can, quick start your automation journey. BAs can leverage this to create a baseline, for your testing. Okay, all you need to do is you give, a couple of information, housekeeping stuff, your project, the kind of application you want to test. Once you launch it, on the right-hand side, what you see is our, Avo Genius. That's our smart recorder, AI-driven smart recorder. Now, when you activate those Genius, on the left-hand side, you would see the application that needs to be tested. So all that the user needs to do is navigate through the business flow that needs to be tested. As the user is navigating on the left hand side, you see on the right hand side, right, that test cases being generated. Now, why is it so powerful when it comes to Avo Genius? Why are we so powerful than any other recorders outside? So if you see, as the user is navigating from screen to screen, it is differentiating screen to screen. So you'll see a dark purple, that's a login screen. Under that login screen, you have test cases being generated. Then you see where the lead is getting created, you'll see the scripts being generated. Right now, while you're recording, while the business user or the tester is recording this entire flow and auto generating the test cases, here itself we give you the flexibility to stop, write your logics, data parameterize, right? So look at the different kind of elements that we have captured. Okay, make those changes, right? So at one go, you have already created your entire automation script by just navigating through the entire flow, right? Now that's how powerful it is. And if you see, every script is very easy to understand, right? You don't have to be a developer or a Selenium tester. Very easy. You can see how the object names have been. You can see the action that is being performed. Press, click. On the right hand side, you will also see the test data that is being generated. Now we give you the flexibility to go and edit the name, make it more user friendly. All those things are there. So like I said, if you see, we give you that all the flexibility to go make those changes while you're here, right? So now what we have done is we have captured a flow. Okay, right? So now we are going to stop it, and then you'll see a visual representation of this entire flow that we captured. And that's what I was talking about, mind map, which is very powerful. This is patented, right? And this helps us in design, in maintenance, and smart execution, right? So you can clearly see if this flow goes from left to right. Okay, on the top, that's a Salesforce application that we were navigating through. It is smart enough to identify that we are creating a lead. That is the process that we were testing, right? In the green, it is smart enough to identify, you see the login screen, then you see a second screen, then the third screen. Those screens are nothing but object repositories. And below that, those are test cases. So every time there is a change in any of the screen, visually, you would see what test cases are going to be impacted, and you can quickly go there and fix. Now, very, very important, right? We get a lot of questions when we are talking about recording. How many, how do you guys capture the objects? How many elements we capture? So when we are working with any of the application type or technologies, we capture around 8 different elements. Now, why that is so important? The reason being is when you're working with an application like Salesforce or any dynamic application, so you always want to make sure you have the right anchor, you have the right locators, right? So you have that flexibility to play around with your elements to make sure your scripts are robust and not brittle. So that way, no matter how dynamic the application is, but it's a part of the business flow, your scripts are still, executing and they don't fail. You don't have to spend a lot of time in maintenance, right? Now, having said that, right now, once we have created this, let's see how, the execution plays the critical role here, right? So like I was talking, like even Saksham was mentioning, making sure you have a very strong presence or hold into the DevOps idea, right? So that's the reason we have built a very strong, execution profile where you can go and build multiple execution profiles. So if you see here on the screen, you can execute directly, right? Or you can schedule your execution, right? Or you can use your CI/CD to trigger through any of your CI/CD pipeline, or you can leverage cloud execution, right? Cloud execution through Sauce Lab, Browser Stack, Lambda Test. So we integrate with most of them, right? So this entire profile creation is very, very powerful. And the reason being is you can create different profiles based on personas, based on the testing type, testing cycles, technology, right? So now the reusability becomes very, very important. Like Saksham was mentioning, right? It's not only about developers or QA testers. So today you have created, let's say, I being a tester, I've gone and I've created multiple profiles. Tomorrow, a UAT tester or a business analyst, they want to quickly come, they want to pick a profile and just kick off the execution. They could do that, right? So that way you're making sure you're collaborating and your all your artifacts that you have created on this platform can be reused across your organization, across different geos, right? So that's how very, very important this execution profile works. Now, so what we have seen is we have seen how we can create test cases, right? The maintenance part of it, execution part of it, and now let's see, after you execute, what are the different kind of artifacts that Avo platform generates to look at the execution reports, execution status, right? To help you debug, right? To understand, to make sure the reports are easy to read. Now, we have kept that in mind. So if you really look at our reports, what we also do is we capture every single step, very easy to understand. Okay. We also allow you to capture a screenshot, pass or fail, that can be easily configured. We allow you to record a video of your entire execution. Now, why this is so important? Because we have seen, a lot of times that a developer tries to put in a lot of efforts when it comes to debugging. Now we help with screenshot, help with videos, the detailed report like what you're seeing here. You can easily identify, which step failed, why it failed, right? And there you're going to not spend a lot of time. Now, plus, because we integrate with a lot of ALM tools, if there are any defects that needs to be logged, you can easily log it from here itself, because we integrate with Jira, Azure, right, TestRail, and many other ALM tool or defect tracking tools, right? So that's about the reports. Now, very, very important and very powerful feature that is that's the key to this entire QA or QE is the maintenance part of it. So like I was talking, right, we have impact analysis. Again, that's our patented feature, which helps you to reduce your time when it comes to maintenance, right? So we are going to quickly show you that, how that works. It's very easy and very simple to use. What it does is typically now here on the screen, you see there are three different screens, right? It's Avo Bank. What we are going to do is we are going to run that impact analysis on these three screens. So it'll scan all the three screens. It'll identify if there are any changes, if there are any objects that are being deleted or added, right? And it's going to list all those, right? So when it lists, that is when it'll tell us that, okay, login screen had these many changes. Okay, now these changes are going to be affecting these many test cases, right? Then it'll give us an option to just in click of a button, it'll allow you to go update the object repositories as well as update the test scripts, right? So that's how powerful the impact analysis is. Now, we have been very mindful how impact analysis is going to be used. We have given a small, human intervention to make sure that you validate, you see what changes are going to be happening, what test cases are going to be impacted, so that way you're sure what changes have been occurred and the test cases that have been changed or adjusted, right? So like you see, the scan is going through all different pages. It went through login, now it's going through fund transfer, right? Subsequently, it will also go to the third screen, and then it'll list all the different elements that have been changed, added, or deleted, right? So while the execution is happening here, any questions? So here, very quickly, right? If you see, it'll tell us what elements have been changed. Okay, so in the testing model, you'll see there's one element that has been changed. If you want to quickly go and update that, that's a login button. You can quickly go and update that, right? Similarly, you can see, okay, this specific, there is no account, so you want to create a new link. If you want to perform any actions there, you can do that as well, right? So you go to the next. So these are the three elements that have been changed: username, password, and submit. All I need to do is select those three and click update. It'll go and update the object repositories as well as it'll make the changes in the test scripts, right? Similarly in the fund transfer, right? So these are the three elements that have been changed, right? So if you really look at it, just on a click of a button, it has scanned all the pages, it has identified the changes, it tells us, okay, these are the changes that need to be done. You click the button update, it'll change the object repository as well as the test scripts. Okay, so now that's how powerful our impact analysis work, and it really helps you in reducing your maintenance time. Right. So in a nutshell, this is what it looks like at a very high level. Again, we'll be very happy to get into deep dive sessions if anybody is interested. We can have demos, right? We can have a lot of detailed walkthrough, and we'll be more than happy to share the artifacts. Any questions?
Santosh, there are a few questions in the chat box. If you could answer them.
Sure.
So can the reports be integrated with Power BI is a question.
Yes. The reports can be integrated with Power BI.
Is it required for a business user to have a license to record the flow?
To record the flow, so to record the flow, it is by default offered by Assure, right? Within Assure. So any flows that has to be recorded and stored in Assure, you don't need an extra license. But if the reports have to be generated externally, that is something that we need to look into.
Mhm. Okay. So there is a long question. it's storing a password in plain text. Is there any reason, as if we have the login screen, that password will be stored, which will be against any compliance requirements?
Right.
Also, do you
So
have the browser supported that is supported for the execution? Can we run the test cases on multiple browser sessions at the same time, headless on one machine?
absolutely, absolutely. So to answer your first question, we have encrypted vault, right? We support multiple encryption methods. Okay. So every time you're entering test, we can turn that on. All your tests that you're going to be entering will be encrypted. So that way your data is, safe and secure. To answer your second question, we support most of the browsers. Yes, you can, trigger execution in parallel browsers, in multiple browsers, and also if you want to test in multiple browser versions, we integrate with, browser stack, Lambda test, right? So we have those capabilities as well.
That's about it.
There are a few more questions. I think there is one question based from on licensing front. So Aishwarya, we will connect separately on the topic of licensing. Licensing depends upon the opportunity, the partner, and a couple of other things. So we'll send you a separate note on that. The second question that you had is, do you provide product demos? Yes, we do. We do encourage more POCs to check compatibility. That so technically speaking, if it's a POC that consists of 7 to 10 days, is generally free. But if it is taking more time, then it is charged. But we'll come back to you separately on this topic. I think there's a question from Mark. I see him raising his hand. Mark, you can put your question in the chat box. There's one more question, Santosh, again from Aishwarya. The question is, how do we maintain test scripts? How can we reduce the maintenance, when it comes to test scripts?
Absolutely, and then that's a very great question, Aishwarya. I mean, like I was saying, right? So there are different components, to make sure your maintenance is reduced. You don't spend a lot of time in maintenance. Number one is definitely planning, right? You need to plan how you want to go and automate. That's the reason why we have mind map, which gives you entire visual, view, and you can start analyzing and visioning, saying that, okay, this is how my application looks, this is how complex my applications are, this is how complex my flows are. Based on that, you can structure it, you can build. Number one. Number two, features like impact analysis, self-healing. Now that is going to immensely help you to reduce your maintenance time, right? Because that will help you to scan your applications, identify what has been changed, help you to automatically update your scripts, your object repositories, right? So there are different ways that you can really leverage to reduce your maintenance time.
Thanks,
I think
Santosh.
that,
There's one more question which we can take in this time. I think this question from Jim. I'm not sure if he addressed this, but the question is about it's a comment. So he says that very curious to see how we discover test case requirements using AI. How do we create a manual test case, and how do we, of course, look at automation in that angle?
Absolutely, Jim. I mean, I would definitely like to have a detailed session, but just to give you a couple of very high level glimpse, I don't want to take too much of time. We use Azure OpenAI, Cloud Anthropic, Cohere, Gemini Pro. So these are few of the models that we use. But I'll be more than happy to get on a call and kind of deep dive with you on how we are generating our test cases. And I think there's one more question from Mark. How many platforms do you cover? So, Mark, again, a great question. Like I was mentioning, we support 200 plus different technologies. We support most of the packaged applications like SAP, Oracle. Again, SAP, ECC, HANA, Fury, Oracle. You talk about OEBS, Fusion, Microsoft Dynamics, JD Edward. So yeah, and when it comes to financial side, we support Guidewire, uh, you know, so yeah, we support most of the technology, desktop, mainframes, mobile. Again, for mobile, we also strongly partner with Sophie. If you really are looking to extensively test only mobile, then we have Sophie also as a partner. Plus, we have our own mobile capabilities as well.
And also to add on to what Santosh just mentioned, we also support Macintosh. Okay, we pretty much work on Mac systems as well, apart from Windows. One last question we'll take in the interest of time. Question from Suprita. She says, does it support iframe, shadow, DOM, etc.
Yes.
elements?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, that is one of the reason why when we are having these kind of webinars and demos, we make sure we have these kind of demos on Salesforce, because we all understand how Salesforce is, developed with using iframes and different kind of DOM shadows and all that. So to answer your questions, yes, we do support. And again, to get into all the details, Supriya will be more than happy to set up a call and kind of educate more on how we handle those kind of technologies.
Yeah, just one question on the chat box just came in. As mentioned by Saksham, that we might need a tool which is capable of codeless with code automation. Is Avo having these features, Saksham or Santosh?
Absolutely,
to
I
answer.
can take this. I can take this. So, like I mentioned, for my first slide. So our platform is completely a no-code platform, and now we also have pivoted into low-code. Now, again, low-code just gives you the flexibility to create different custom keywords. You're already seeing here on the screen, right? So that'll help you to again bring your creative part of it, create some strong custom keywords using JavaScript and Python. And again, we are adding more languages to it, and otherwise it's completely no code as well.
Yeah, and Santosh, just to augment that answer, right? Why this would be a game changer is most of this question today is about compatibility, as you must have seen, right? Whether it's browsers, operating systems, product, iframes, object types, and all that. With the custom keywords or this code-based features, you give access and control to your end users, where they can now create solutions and workarounds wherever they start, right? So I think it's a great feature to add on. That was the reason, that was the amalgamation I was talking about between no code, low code, and code-based platform.
Absolutely, Saksham. Very rightly said.
Good. I think we are on top of the hour. So any last comments, Saksham and Santosh, from you guys before we pass it over to Aparna?
No, for me, like I said, right, there has never been more exciting times to be in the QA world, right? And I'm so glad, so privileged that I'm here with the rest of my community, rest of my practice, looking at the art of possible, and we're keeping my fingers crossed, looking forward to the future that unfolds with our partners like Avo, definitely. Yeah, Santosh, over to you.
No, absolutely, and very rightly said, Saksham. Today, in today's world, being in this QA and QE space, it has never been as exciting as today we are. And the way technology is evolving, the kind of platforms and tools are coming out, even a manual tester can very proudly say that, hey, what, I'm automating complex application, right? There is a lot of AI being injected into our entire QE or QA practices. So yeah, I mean, exciting days. Again, we are looking forward to see how AI is also going to make a huge impact. Everybody is talking. There's a lot of buzzwords, but we just have to wait and see how we are going to be using AI to solve a real problem. Yep.
Thanks, Santosh. Thanks, Saksham. Aparna, over to you. We can conclude.
Thank you, Santosh. Thank you, Saksham. The insights you have given to everyone must be game changing for everyone who has attended this webinar for sure. And thank you everyone for joining this webinar. It has been a great pleasure hosting this webinar. And I think someone had asked about, hey, are you raffling the gift card winners live? No, we are not right now, but we will be getting back to the winners soon, very soon, with their gift cards. But yes, for now, we are wrapping up this session. And thank you once again, everyone, for joining this webinar and making this a huge success. So yeah, thank you so much. And yes, that's a wrap. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you all. Thank you.